Hey everybody, this is Jason Stallings, and welcome to the Artifice Podcast. And this evening, I am going to cover one of the more unusual recent paintings or diptychs that I created. I created in 2025, and I think I ended up naming these like Spring Improvisation number 1 and number 2. And I kind of just had this unease about talking about this painting until now. Partly just where I'm at personally, emotionally, but also just kind of having spent time with these two paintings and like really gained more of an appreciation, not only for like what I did with them visually, texturally, and otherwise, but more than anything, just kind of what it represented as far as a transition from an old way of making art into a new one. I had originally kind of conceived these two paintings as this sort of exploration of, I guess, like therapy or I guess past relationships and looking forward to future relationships with, people I've dated in the past. Though I guess the sequencing of this is a little unconventional, but that's just kind of how it worked out visually. It worked. The figure on the right originally was a, kind of a drawing that I did of an ex-girlfriend of mine, and gradually just kind of became this more abstracted piece. And this individual was a therapist and very centered and peaceful individual, and didn't work out for various reasons, and that's fine. But I realized, like, especially looking forward into the other piece, and at the time thinking like, well, I don't know what this is, sort of an ambiguous path, but there ended up being some interesting value in that because. Now I'm in a very loving and supportive and deeply satisfying relationship. And I think that person ended up being the figure on the left-hand side. I just didn't know it at the time. So it was sort of this kind of open-ended thing that turned into something that I had maybe just more of an intuitive understanding of it now as being like something that is nurturing and giving. So not only to me, but I'm able to do that for this other person. So yeah, like some of the symbolism in there, initially I was very coy about this piece or this diptych, but I was a little uncomfortable about it. But there are personal images and symbols that meant something to me, and the more I'm reflecting on it now, like, okay, it means things again. They actually kind of relate to imagery from my life and my childhood and family. Like there's a bird in the upper right hand corner. My father owned a bunch of birds. There's a koi, some koi fish. My mother has a really beautiful koi pond. So like, not only is it about like that, but it's like there's a familial component to it. There are fruits in there, which I guess I didn't really think about at the time, but it ended up being more prophetic than, or just the symbolism ended up being more rich to me personally later. But these are just very personal works. And the right hand side there's some oranges, left hand side there are pears. They both symbolize different things in different ways. Like pears symbolize fidelity and faithfulness, and oranges are nurture, and so like, but they both mean good and bad things at different times. But also this was initially an attempt visually to recapture a design of a really early piece that I did in college, where I sort of transposed all these figure drawings into a composition that turned into an abstract piece, where the results from this work are very different. I mean, This just ended up being kind of this, combination of different things. But because I sort of had this unease with the piece for a long time, I think it just ended up being a thing where I just experimented a lot visually, and with lines, texture, color, a lot of gold leaf, and shapes that were kind of ambiguous. And I tend to be a little more literal with the ideas I explore up front. And in this case, there's just a little bit more of a abstract ambiguity about it. Like, it means something to me initially, and over time I was just like kind of letting it become whatever it was going to become. I don't really do that right now. I've sort of settled on developing a series of pieces that relate to iconography, world travel, and history and culture. So this is over time I've sort of had this unease with these pieces, but now I'm much more comfortable with them, much more happy with the results, and kind of the context of where they sit. So yeah, So there's some other imagery. There's flowers. There's an upside down mirror, which I think that ended up becoming kind of this symbol for another person holding a mirror to you and reflecting something about yourself that you're not really aware of. And something kind of interesting about that to me. So yeah, I perhaps I can revisit these things in the future, but it's just something I kind of made at a point in time. If anything, this was also an attempt to do a follow-up to a concept I developed for a painting called We Can Talk, which explored relationships, the ups and downs of those things. And this is, in some respects, a more updated version of that. So, I think that's a couple really great pieces, and very much an experimental phase in my creative journey. That was sort of a step in a transition, but a really strong transition. And yeah, so felt like it was time to kind of chat about those pieces a little bit. And sometimes I have a challenge with figures in abstract works, and I think I didn't really rely as much on projected drawings as I usually do. So I think that in this case I just kind of let the paintings become what they were going to become, and that was going to be it. So yeah, there are other images like the moons. There are poses in the right-hand panel where there's different figures that kind of began as human figures and morphed into just abstract forms. So, and I think that ultimately the choice to obscure the faces not only was a creative choice and a visual choice, but like a choice of being, well, I don't want to necessarily dehumanize or speak ill of any one person or people. So it's becomes more of a ambiguous, abstracted idea. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and looking forward to tell you more about pieces I have in the future. And hope you enjoy this. Talk to you soon.